So the Game Awards are happening pretty soon on December 12th, and they announced what games were nominated for Game of the Year. And those games are Balatro, Black Myth Wukong, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor ReFantazio, You Shouldn't Be Here to Begin With, and the game I want to talk about for today, Astro Bot. Now me personally, I've only played Astro Bot so far of the time of me writing this video. Balatro is a surprise pick, but the game looks pretty fun. Black Myth Wukong doesn't look that bad. I actually own Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, but I just haven't found the time to play it. Metaphor, while it didn't interest me at first, it did grab my attention as of late. And while Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree, while I assume is a phenomenal expansion to the original game, I really just don't think it belongs in Game of the Year when it can't be played separately from its base game. And that leaves us Astro Bot. This is the best Nintendo 3D platformer that Nintendo did not make. This game is amazing, and I'd like to talk about the game and its practices on how it can set a good example for the gaming industry and landscape. I'd like to break this video down into 3 sections: a review of the game, the team behind Astro Bot, and how other companies can learn from this game and the team's practices. This should just be a short video I've been wanting to make for a while, and the Game Awards give me a good opportunity for me to make a video on this game while it's still relevant. So with that, let's begin this video, starting with... Did you know Astro Bot is the first game on PS5? This game came to me as a surprise, honestly. It showed up during a state of play on May 30th of this year, and when I saw trailer footage for it, I was like, wait, isn't this just Astro's Playroom? But once I learned more about this game and that it was its own thing, I was pretty stoked, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, this game has Joker from Persona 5. It already piqued my interest, but I'm getting ahead of myself. When the reviews came out for this game, people were saying things like, this is like the Super Mario Galaxy 3 we all wanted. And I can confirm, they are 100% correct. I am honestly surprised it is an accurate comparison. I could not wait to play this game. And when did this hype start for me? 2 days before the game released. Not that much time to wait for. So yeah, that was a pretty short time from reveal to release. Now here's the fun part. I get to talk about the game now! The gameplay of Astro Bot, as described earlier, is a 3D platformer of the likes of Mario Galaxy or Banjo-Kazooie. Astro Bot does what a lot of good 3D platformers do, is that it gives you greater air mobility in the air. Now what do I mean by that? Think Flood from Mario Sunshine, or the Spin Jump from Mario Galaxy, or Cappy from Mario Odyssey. There's gonna be a lot of Mario comparisons in this video if you couldn't tell already, so deal with it. All these abilities help the player readjust a bad jump, and makes it seem more fair in having more control of their movement. And Astro Bot does the same. It is a very beginner-friendly game. You get a hover jump, and man, this movement option is super useful. I wouldn't classify it as super fun like Cappy and Odyssey, but the game would feel way worse without it. It's doing a thankless job of being great and useful, but not exceptional compared to other games. But overall, this game feels amazing to control. The other base abilities you get are a simple punch to deal with most enemies, and a spin attack for solving some puzzles and dealing with tougher enemies. The base kit you get in this game is, once again, super useful and intuitive. Now, you're not going to get people screaming at the top of their lungs, "This game is amazing and has basic combat and movement!" But it doesn't need to show off crazy combos you can do with Astro's kit. It's just a good kit. But something this game is going to get high praise for is the level design. The levels of Astro Bot are fantastic, each one setting it apart from the last one. Every level has a simple format but executes it in different ways. Every level has a certain amount of collectibles to find, and the way levels are designed make it fun to explore. I'll talk about the collectibles more later in its own section, but I just wanted to highlight how there's so much to do with these stages. You can even find secret endings to levels to unlock more stages that in and of itself has more collectibles to find in those hidden stages. There are so many levels in this game that I can't even talk about all of them, but let me talk about a few here. Some of my favorite levels being Trunk of a Funk, Spooky Time, Slow-Mo Casino, Luna Sola, Bubbling Under, and Downside Surprise. And for most of these levels, they have the benefit of power-ups. Power-ups are a nice addition to this game. Some of the levels I'll be talking about have power-ups in them, so I'll talk about them later. But one of that doesn't show up that I love so much are the frog boxing gloves. They allow you to extend your melee, and it feels really fun to use, kind of like Mr. Fantastic's stretchy punches, or as IGN would put it, it makes you feel like you're a robot with frog boxing gloves. Anyway, let me go back to talking about the levels. In Trunk of a Funk, you sprout a giant tree and platform to the top, where it even surpasses the clouds. I'm a big fan when levels have you scaling giant structures. I'm a simple man. I see tall tree, me want to climb tall tree. And in this level, the power up you get is an elephant vacuum. The vacuum lets you suck up gel that will allow you to create platforms with it. Think Cloud Mario from Galaxy, except you have different gels to do different things. This one was pretty fun to mess around with. Spooky Time is a pretty good one as well. I'm usually a bit indifferent on ghost levels in games, but this one is really fun. I love it when ghost themed levels give the devs an excuse to have the game screw with the player a lot. Like in this level, there's a big coin that's actually an enemy that can crush you. The power up for this level is a stopwatch that can slow down time. This is one of my favorite power-ups in the game. The game uses this ability in such unique ways in this level that I love it. Like passing really fast knives or platforms, running up walls in slow motion, it's amazing. Then there's Slow-Mo Casino. I love casino settings in video games a lot. I love Casino Night Zone from Sonic, the King Dice Fight in Cuphead, the Sixth Palace in Persona 5, just to name a few. I like this level because it teaches kids early in life that you should start thinking about gambling and that putting it all on black is a great idea. And like the name implies, this level also uses the stopwatch power-up. There's even some enemies in this level where you need to use the stopwatch to platform on the projectiles they throw out to take them down, which I think is pretty cool. Lunasola is a really fun one, where it has a day and night mechanic, where you can change it by hitting buttons on the stage, and doing so flips the stage sideways. This is such a creative level, and having it be distinct with the day and night mechanic has it stand out amongst these other levels. Also, this level doesn't have a power up, so moving on. Bubbling Under is a underwater level, but you know you're a good game when I'm praising a water level. This level reminds me a lot of Dire Dire Docks from Mario 64. This wide underwater landscape with stuff to explore like a sunken ship and all these hoops you can go around, it's pretty good. And it's better in this game because the controls don't fucking suck. And to make traversing the level even better, the power up for this level is a penguin that boosts your movement. Pretty good stuff. And my absolute favorite level from this game, it's Downside Surprise. Now, I'm just going to show you one clip to show you why I love this level. You can shrink on command! Not some go through a pipe to enter the tiny version of a stage, but like actual size manipulation shit. They designed this level so beautifully. You can see the platforming section you have to do in tiny form while in big form. This level is what proved to me this game was peak. While there are some levels that are good or whatever or serviceable, levels like these show off what you can do with hardware like the PS5 instead of making Joel's face 52% more accurate to real life. This genuinely was one of the most jaw-dropping moments for me from a design perspective. A concept so cool, but no one has really executed it to such a great degree like this. So those were some of my favorite levels. Definitely where the high praise for this game will go towards, and for good reason. These levels are amazing. All of them are designed super well, and while some of these levels are a bit forgettable, all of them play amazingly. I wouldn't consider any of these levels bad. But good levels pair up great with my next topic, which is... If great level design and 3D platforming staples aren't your thing, you'll probably get a kick at having an Astro Bot to collect. The collectibles in this game are really fun and cute. There are the level collectibles and the gambling collectibles. The level collectibles are stuff like puzzle pieces that unlock certain activities and customizable things for the player and ship. These things are nice, but once I unlocked a pattern or costume I liked, I never switched off them. As soon as I got the pirate costume, I never switched off it. And then the other level collectibles are the PlayStation icon bots. In Astro's Playroom, the PS5 tech demo, for being a tech demo, the game also had a lot of collectibles in the form of PlayStation's consoles, controllers, and one-off peripherals being collectibles for the game. And while there were references to PlayStation icons in that game, they weren't really collectibles, rather they were more like Easter eggs. But in Astro Bot, they damn well made the PlayStation icons into marketable bots. In each level, there are regular bots for you to rescue that go towards the overall bot count, and while the icon bots also go towards the bot total, the icon bots will have the little PlayStation symbols next to them, and this game basically goes through Sony's entire catalog of characters they own or studios they were close with. Now some people will say that this is nostalgia pandering, but I think it's more of love for these more obscure characters like Klonoa, the Cube from Intelligent Cube, and Joel from The Last of Us. There are so many characters in here that I'm sure it was made with love for the PlayStation IP and the game companies that had a home on PlayStation consoles. I mean, I just love that we have Persona 3, 4, and 5 love here. They remember Sly Cooper was a character they have. Raiden, Parappa the Rappa, Richter Belmont, Ryu and Ken, and a goddamn Fall Guy are all just a handful of my favorites. But I just appreciate the love and care for them to acknowledge their IP and relationships with other studios. I also like how they don't just flat out call the character by their name, it's always a description of what they look like or what the character's, well, characteristics are, and they give a little tagline for each character. Some are cute while others make me want to bawl my eyes out. And each character has an item you can unlock in the form of gambling. Most, if not all of these, are just supposed to be nice little nods and references to the source material and game they're from. And they get a cute and unique little animation to go along with it. Overall, they hit it out of the park with these collectibles. It's got a little bit of everything. Completionists will find it fun to collect all of them, and hardcore PlayStation fans will appreciate the deep cut references. And me, who likes to be a completionist and someone who's a fan of learning about obscure stuff, these collectibles were made for nerdy people like me. And there's even more love and appreciation when we get to the bosses and bonus levels. Minor spoilers for the final boss, I guess. I don't know, it's not that important. The bosses in this game are actually pretty good. They have you fighting a mecha animal based on the animal of the galaxy you're in, and they all have you using a different power-up to fight the boss. Having a specific power-up for the boss fights help in making the boss fights feel more unique. Not only does it allow the bosses to stand out on its own, but dealing with the bosses won't always be the same. You won't be just doing the same old punch 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 dead. You'll need to use the power-ups if you want to win the boss fight. And since the bosses are designed with a specific power-up in mind, the bosses play into it, which I love. I will say the bosses' designs themselves are alright, nothing outstanding, but the boss fights themselves are really well designed. And I like how the final boss utilizes all the power-ups and characters you saved, and even referencing Astro's playroom in a neat and clever way. And after defeating the boss of each galaxy, you'll save a PlayStation icon, and each of the icons you save will have you play a bonus level based on the game of the character you saved. This is such a cool idea to do with the game with these characters from PlayStation's history. There's only 5 here, but the 5 they picked were good picks. You've got the more obvious picks that I was expecting, like Kratos of God of War, Nathan Drake of Uncharted, the Industry Plant character from Horizon Zero Dawn, and then 2 I was not expecting. Spike from Ape Escape, and the Rokus from Loco Roco. Insane but welcome picks from Team Asobi. I love that they picked these franchises to get their own bonus levels, since the point of these bonus levels is to have a homage to how the original game series plays. I'm sure this is how a few people got an interest for these games, especially the more forgotten ones like Ape Escape. Honestly, if this game got someone to try out Ape Escape or Loco Roco because of Astro Bot, that can only be a good thing. These bonus levels are also just really well designed, and for these levels they can go all out on the references. If they ever do an Astro Bot 2, I'm gonna look forward to see if they'll do the same idea but with different games like Sly Cooper, Ratchet and Clank, or I don't know, Gran Turismo or something. Overall, this game is a phenomenal 3D platformer with fun bosses, great Easter eggs, fun levels, great collectibles, and a huge love letter to Sony's history, and I'm just happy it is even recognized as one of the best games this year had to offer. And this game even got some DLC after it released. Nothing too special, but it got some time trial levels like Astro's Playroom. These are just bite-sized levels that have you aim for the fastest time, and they even added more icon bots. So much time and care went into this game that I think I need to talk about the development team behind the game. Team Asobi are the team behind Astro Bot and other Astro games like Astro's Playroom and the VR game. They are a Japan-based studio, and I believe this was one of their first non-tech demo-ish games. A team that had about 60 talented individuals develop this game in the matter of only about 3 years. While that may still seem pretty long to some people, keep in mind the general public only knew about the existence of this game around May 30th, 2024, and the game came out September 6th, 2024, so about 4 months from reveal to release. And this game had a relatively low budget for a high quality AAA game, estimated to be between 50 to 75 million to make. I say relatively because god damn 50 to 75 million would look really nice in my bank account. But yeah, for most AAA games now, they will exceed 100 million to make, especially other Sony published games. But Team Asobi kept the budget low and worked on a 3D platformer instead of making a cinematic adventure game. Now, could Team Asobi make a game like those? Yeah, probably, but they stuck to what they were best at and put out a high quality game that is now competing with other cinematic adventure games and Balatro. And throughout it all, the team has stayed relatively the same. So this was a short segment, but I just wanted to talk about this great studio, but also it pairs up well with my next and final discussion, which is lessons that can be learned. So let's see how other game studios can learn from what Team Asobi does right. Team Team Asobi did their job perfectly. They gave Sony a nice smaller budget and smaller scale release for them. Now, are the big budget games bad? No, but they can't be sustainable forever. If budgets get too big, it could crumble. You can't publish a big budget game that costs $200 million to produce over and over, expecting the same outcome. These games take time to make, and if one of those games flops, it could be detrimental for your company. For instance, take a look at everyone's new favorite punching bag, Concord, a game that took 8 years to develop and cost Firewalk Studios $400 million to make. In no reality, this was going to make its money back because it's just too high to scale to. And I know, this was low-hanging fruit, even for me, but let me give you another example. Spider-Man 2 PS5, while being a really good game with some flaws, the game's budget was around $300 million. Not as bad as Concord. I mean, Jesus Christ, anything is going to be better than Concord's. And it being Spider-Man, I'm pretty sure it made its money back, but games should not be getting close to these numbers. One tank with a budget format like this and it could bring a game studio crumbling, which is why Sony and Team Asobi got Astro Bot out. A low budget game with the right team can have low risk and high rewards for your company. Not every Astro Bot is going to be a hit, but a, let's say, $30 to $50 million game flopping hurts way less than a hyped up $250 million plus game that could tank a studio's reputation and business. Now, I'm not saying you can't make these high budget games. They do make a lot of money, but have some smaller games supplement the bigger titles. In fact, Nintendo does this practice a lot. There will be a few smaller titles from smaller studios sprinkled throughout Nintendo's library to keep players tidied over to the next big release from them. Giving this route gives people more things to play, and you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And games like these have a better announcement window. Like some games like Insomniac's Wolverine were announced 3 years ago, and there's still no word on that publicly from Insomniac themselves. So while sure, you get a hype reveal for a state of play, but for the next 3 years, people are gonna build up hype for a game for so long, because if you've waited 3+ years for something, people will always have high expectations. That's just gonna happen. And it won't always live up to those expectations. Even if the game is good, there will be people who say, "We waited 5 years for this?" Well, having a game announced like 6 months before the game comes out is a really good strat, because firstly, the game is probably already finished at this point. You're not selling people on hopes and dreams, you have stuff to show for yourself. And secondly, hype is kept modest. One of my favorite examples of this is Super Mario Bros. Wonder. From reveal to release, it was like 5 months. They didn't hype this game up for a year and a half, it just got announced during a Nintendo Direct. And it keeps the hype alive in a good way by having a foreseeable end goal. And Astro Bot did the same thing. The game got announced, I blinked, and the game was already out. It was amazing. So the lesson I hope game companies learn from this is that smaller titles with a short reveal to release cycle have the power to be some of the most creative games imaginable, with loads of potential for money and recognition, something the companies will definitely care about. They don't have to be big budget games, so don't put all your importance on one big budget game every 5 years. Make an Astro Bot every now and then, because who knows, maybe that will be nominated for Game of the Year one day. And I, for one, can't wait to see more Astro Bots out there. Now, you're probably asking yourself right now, are there any other games this applies to for the Game of the Year nominees? And to that, I say, yes. In between the time of me writing the script, I've played another Game of the Year contender. Some of you might think I finally decided to play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and you guys would be wrong. It's actually Balatro. Balatro is actually really good. Balatro is fucking fun. Now, is this the best game ever made? Yes. I'm joking a little bit, but the fact that this card game was nominated for Game of the Year really gives me faith that the Game Awards might know what they're doing, except for that one blunder. Balatro is not just poker. It's a roguelike that has poker be the base of the game's mechanics. I don't want to add another video's worth of me talking about a game. All you need to know is that this game has really in-depth mechanics, is super replayable, and has many different card decks for you to run that fits your playstyle. And it was made by one goddamn person. While doing my research, I found this little tidbit and I just thought it was really funny. So if Astro Bot doesn't win, I would also be 100% cool with Balatro winning. Both of these games can set a good precedent. Your game doesn't need to be a 3D story game with ultra realistic graphics and high definition golf clubs. All you need is either marketable bots or be like Slay the Spire. Actually, can we just have Slay the Spire win Game of the Year of 2024? I think that'd be really funny. In conclusion, more games should be like Astro Bot and Balatro, and that you should gamble. I like games that let me gamble. Like, you know, I'm just starting to think I might have a gambling addiction.